All right. All right, good evening, everybody. This is the Roundtable for Saturday, September 12, 2015. It is 9:04 Eastern Daylight Time, and we are live on Blab. Joining me here this evening, barely awake, maybe not, Drew Griffin, app developer extraordinaire, founder of Podcasting Magazine, and also blabbingovercoffee.com. How you doing there, Drew?
Doing good tonight. How you doing, Mike?
Good. So I've been watching your blabs this week. It's a lot of activity on Blabbing Over Coffee. How'd it go this week on blabbing?
Yeah, it went extremely well. I was kind of surprised that we had as much activity and as much interest in the topics as I just wasn't. I didn't promote it whatsoever, but obviously there were some hot topics talking about Apple, the post event, all that kind of news, and had some interesting conversation thereafter. A lot of it kind of shifted over into the medical aspect of things, and I'm really enjoying the platform.
It's normally in the morning Eastern time. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, I typically go about 10 o'clock, 9, maybe 10 o'clock in the morning when people are either just got to work and they have a cup of coffee, or those that aren't working the morning shift, they have a cup of coffee and they just feel like talking about whatever the random topics are.
And also joining me is a nurse practitioner extraordinaire, social media superstar, founder of SeanDent.com. Sean Dent, how's it going there, buddy?
Doing well. How about yourself, Mike?
Good. So I saw on the Twitters out there, you were doing something called IRB research training.
Oh, man.
Can you share with you what the hell is that?
Oh, you know exactly what that is.
Well,
You've had to do
audience
it yourself.
People who don't know,
So in the world of research, we all have to behave and not follow in the footsteps of the Nazis and repeat what happened in Nuremberg. And we all have to behave when we decide to research other human beings. So there's a series of modules, learning modules that you have to take, and I've taken it for 2 different facilities, and I'm taking it for a 3rd facility now because I'm going to be help conduct research in the facility that I work in now. So we're doing a small local study, and I have to go jump through the rings again to make sure that I'm not breaking any laws.
Great. So we have successfully driven everyone out. So it is,
well, if you go back and look at my video, you'll understand just how exciting those things are.
Watching Blab tonight. So, maybe we'll get some people back in here. So our first topic, we're going to recap this this Apple announcement, and it was a great Blab the other night when I was working, but I couldn't come in. But you guys had a great discussion on it. Now that if you had a kind of a few days, had to think about it, Drew, from the developer standpoint, you've had a few days to kind of see what are your thoughts on the announcement after a few days.
Well, the excitement has not stopped. A lot of my attention over the past few days has shifted over to Apple TV. The deep linking is going to be a big deal in the app development world, and just the ability for people to discover new relevant content or just be engaged with content from their TVs is very exciting. App developers specifically, they have OS TV, which is the new operating system for apps that can actually play on the television. A huge opportunity from advertisement to just discovery and meaning more apps being downloaded and interacted with on these devices. Extraordinary opportunity. So super excited about that. The iPad Pro seems very compelling. Well, obviously, there's been a lot of jokes, a lot of people joking about the pencil, and whether or not it's reinvention and evolution of the process. There's been some very funny comments, very funny tweets and stuff about the new technologies. My excitement hasn't waned, so I'm pretty thrilled.
And what about you, Sean? There, you're going to get out and order that iPad Pro?
Probably not. I am going to sit in line probably for the Apple TV, though. I mean, just from a recreational standpoint, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it. But some
What
of
do you
the
like
other
about it specifically? What are you
Oh,
excited about?
I use Netflix right now. I'm still using all of my, I use Netflix and I think Amazon Video. I use it through my old Xbox, and it's on its last leg at this point. So, and I do like the idea of the new remote, of course, a new toy. The Siri function is probably going to be entertaining, at least for myself and my wife as well. We do watch a lot of movies, and for Siri to be able to assist you in locating that particular movie when my wife is notorious for asking me about a movie with one particular scene and one particular actor, I'm going to be testing Siri's capabilities on that one. So, yeah. I can't say anything else has changed. I know that the Blab that I think Drew had this past week, was it on Tuesday night or Wednesday night after release? We talked about some of the possibilities or opportunities from the medical perspective on some of the things that are coming out. So very intriguing, I don't want to say exciting. Sorry, I'm not going to use the word exciting. Just very intrigued to see to where it goes.
Yeah, I watched the event and I watched the reruns, and that anatomy app on the iPad Pro was very, very intriguing. Seeing the specific meniscus kind of being torn and all that type of stuff, and education is going to be huge on this thing. I'm not a big iPad fan. I don't use it a lot. But seeing all the functionality of it, and obviously I'm not very creative. I'm not artistic at all. So, like the pencil, I would lose the pencil in the first 5 minutes. Is probably what would happen with me. I'm not built like that. But for the creative people out there, I mean, it looks like it's very exciting. I'll actually kind of take a look at the iPad Pro, but it's not really something that's I'm probably going to be getting out and purchasing.
No.
Let me ask you, Drew. So, have you ever been able to take a look at tvOS yet, or is it similar to the OS architecture? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Is it? Have you looked at it yet?
Oh, I don't know yet. I mean, I've been given access to it. Actually, I had to purchase the kit. So the television plus the device, and obviously there's a bunch of documentation that comes along with that. So yeah, in a sense, I'm starting to gear up for that. There's a ton of excitement around that for a lot of different reasons. From a development perspective, looking at that anatomy application, and the ability for, conceptually coming up with app ideas is not, there's not a shortage. And I'll just, how about I just do an announcement here?
Wait, hold on. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to tweet this
out.
Getting my full attention here.
Yeah. Well, and this is a concept. Maybe other people will steal the idea. I don't know. But here's the plausibility with this app idea. In the world of wound care, there's a lot of documentation that goes on in the description of the wound. So picture, if you will, you have a stage 3 or stage 4 wound, and that wound is progressing or it's regressing from week to week, maybe every 2 weeks. There's a lot of photo documentation that's happening out there in the wound care world, just kind of documenting the progress of that wound, or at least the status. It is plausible now that if you're taking that image of that photo, there's going to be certain types of condition, the way that the wound appears. You're going to have, the fibrin tissue, you're going to have eschar, you're going to have granulation tissue, et cetera, all gross stuff. But if that wound is progressing from week 1 to week 3, you're going to see a change in the percentage of the content in that wound. So the percentage of granulation tissue, percentage of fibrin tissue, percentage of eschar, or callus tissue, or whatever it is. What if someone could take their Apple Pen and color in that percentage and have it calculated precisely for the volume and the percentage of slough tissue or fibrinous tissue or eschar tissue from week to week to week, instead of guesstimating it being 25% when it's actually 16 or 17%. You can actually, start to color in what it actually looks like. So, you click on the red tissue and you color out all the red tissue in, and the application actually calculates the surface percentage. How would that affect your documentation?
I actually could take that a step further. You could turn that into a 3D model. You would obviously need to create a sterile environment, or you could put like a dressing over it that we use all the time. A see-through dressing that just lays over top of the wound, and you actually could outline it with your pencil, outline it with your pencil for a base setting. And then like every time you see the patient or do a treatment, you can outline either what portions of the wound are changing or not changing, literally in 3D. Ooh.
Yep.
I hate wounds, but I really like that idea. Non-disclosure. I would never be part of that, but yeah, that would be pretty cool.
You would call Drew and say,
"Oh
Drew,
yeah.
this is awesome. Bring stuff over."
Drew and I've already talked about that. I could never ever do that job ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge potential here with this. They also talked about the watch during the event, and they demoed this app on the watch with tracking vital signs, or even with Airstrip, with prenatal patients.
What do you think of that one, Mike?
Well, I looked into it, and it looks interesting there. I don't know much about it. Fascinating with the monitoring of the fetus as well. So I was like, wow, interesting. Huh? And there's also the scheduling function, which could be with any kind of EMR, I would presume. And they claim, that they do have the patient privacy things kind of worked out, and as time goes along, that's also gonna work itself out, including Drew's potential future app for that. And I'm just trying to imagine all these kind of cross-platform things. So you do that on the iPad Pro. You can see it on an Apple TV. You can check it out on your watch. All those type of things. Kind of linking together, and somehow putting it into a medical record somewhere. That the potential there is very interesting.
We talked about that on your Blab, Drew, is the ability to have that cross-platform or to interface is still not completely there. You said that you know of a hospital that uses Macs more than it uses PCs. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe it's, the one that I know that has been using it a lot. I don't know if it's like current, but I was doing some work for Children's Hospital in Philadelphia just last year, and they were predominantly Mac. Now that may have changed, or maybe they were just using it for administrative purposes, for documentation purposes or whatnot. It appeared that they were using Macs or Mac-related Apple-related products.
I'm curious, like, Mike, you have an iWatch, don't you? You have one now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So can it monitor your heart rate?
Yes. Yes.
Now,
so there's an app on there.
There's an app. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, does it have like the diodes on the back, the back face of it, so that you can put it on your wrist, or there's nothing on the back of the face, right?
On the back, I don't know if you can see that, but there are
little diodes. Yeah, okay.
There are stuff there to monitor it.
Because I bought the Fitbit version of that in the watch a while back, and I gave it the best try possible, and it was the most uncomfortable thing ever. So I'll be curious if the iWatch is at least it must be more comfortable to wear than the Fitbit one that I had. You know,
do you use any wearables at all for your training and things? Okay.
No. I mean, you know, I do Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit, so pretty much everything that I would wear I'd probably break. I put things up and put them down. So yeah. So no, that would, and I have like wrist wraps that it just wouldn't work out for me.
So do you monitor training? I mean, I know you work with other people as well. Do you monitor their training like on an iPad or something like that?
No. Well, no. I guess yes, I do. So I do a lot of coaching through one of the apps. You may have seen it every once in a great while. It comes across my screen. It's called Coach's Eye, and it's multi-platform. Goes across every device possible. It's on iPads. It's on iPhones, Androids. Take your pick, and it's a really nice video for shooting like slow-mo and having complete control over forwards and backwards, and then it has little editing tools within the app. So, I mean, that's probably the only real tool I use outside of, you know, good old-fashioned, you know, biometrics and are feeling.
What are you talking about?
You know, I am a firm believer in not weighing someone. I don't like using someone's weight as a marker for success, because muscle weighs more than fat. And if you get stronger and you lose weight, if you lose fat and get stronger, you actually will gain weight. You'll get heavier, but you feel better, look better, move better. So I don't even have people weigh themselves. It's pointless. It's just frustrating. So you get me off on a tangent again.
No,
why do you do that?
No, this is interesting. You know, all these potential fitness, applications to things. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just assuming, but you know, patients ask you about, you know, fitness questions or that type of thing, and
they do. But then the minute I tell them what I do, they all get scared.
Well, I'm scared.
Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. And I always actually have a couple videos from where I work out that I have people who are 9 years old up to 75 years old doing the same workout that I do, just scaling it to their ability. And, you know, not many people will actually come out and try it. They're always too scared. Everyone thinks that it's too dangerous, you know, so.
Well, it's too dangerous for me. So
whatever.
Maybe for the regular person,
it's not
dangerous.
So in answer to your question, the devices you're talking about, I think, are wonderful for when you're doing like cardiovascular work, if you're a runner, if you're a swimmer, things like that, because I still swim every once in a while when I get the chance, and I still use the old-fashioned waterproof Ironman to, you know, monitor my speed and my laps and things like that. So, you know, I don't know how waterproof the iWatch is, though. So that might be a, you know, not something you'd want to do, is take the iWatch into the water. So,
I mean, is it like a hardware type of thing, or is there an app that you can think of that Drew could build that would say, hey, this would be applicable to my coaching or to myself in fitness or anything like that?
Well, they already have apps out there. I mean, and they're geared towards, you know, my area of expertise in CrossFit. There are CrossFit apps out there. There's actually a gazillion of them out there. There's only, you know, a handful of them that are actually worth using. And you can track everything that we talk about in CrossFit, from all of the major movements, your squats, you know, pushes, presses, things like that. So there are apps out there, but, you know, everyone's just creating a different color. It's not a new app. Everyone's doing the same thing. It's just making it look prettier, or it's interfacing with something that you can use online or track online. So, yeah, I mean, because like we have a program called Box Command, and Box Command actually is a program that you can look at the workouts online, and you can sign into their app on the iPhone. You can track all your workouts, all your everything that you do over a period of time so that you can say that, you know, at month 1 I could do this, but at month 6 I could do this and I was better at it. And that's one of the wonderful things about CrossFit is that there's always a way of monitoring your progress, because you do what they call benchmark workouts. You do a benchmark workout at the beginning, which is, you know, like push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups at a certain amount of pace and time. And then 3 months later, you do that very same workout. And if you can do more reps or do it faster or do it with heavier weight, you have obviously improved in some way. You know, so that's why I've always been a very big proponent, fan, and supporter of CrossFit, because of those things. Those are measurable goals that you can, you know, improve upon. You know, CrossFit really has at least honed down the idea of measuring your fitness. Everyone likes to say they want to get fitter, they want to get stronger, but what I do, I can absolutely measure whether or not you've gotten better. You know, and I don't use a scale ever. So if I use a scale, it's to weigh the amount of weight that you have lifted from the ground to above your head, or from the ground to a specific level above the ground. So yeah, it's the only time I ever use a scale.
Drew, let me get back to your wound app. I mean, is there a certain kind of, and I don't know anything about this, is there a certain architecture you have to follow to make it patient privacy or HIPAA compliant? Like how would you know, or is there a test, or like how would people know if it's HIPAA compliant?
Well, that's that. Yeah, there are guidelines out there. There are certain medical guidelines. There are certain groups that you actually have to pass their equations, but and their guidelines. You have to meet certain standards for HIPAA compliance. That is just the concept. So building the architecture out and then worrying about the back end are two separate issues, separate matters. It's really the investigational phase, whether the application or the ability to do that is plausible. Why would I build that? Because because you can is the number one thing. Number two, the potential for better documentation is always going to trump whether or not somebody should. For tracking whether or not a wound is actually, somebody can describe a wound by handwriting or typing into the documentation. That is very objective. Or actually subjective rather. When you're taking a picture, it's pretty objective. If you're taking a photograph and you're actually documenting technically what's inside that wound, you're actually seeing a percentage of improvement, stagnation, or decline over a period of time. That's why there would be a potential for something like this. Whether or not I'm actually going to do it really remains up to doing a little bit of research first to see if there's anything else out there in the market that would be competing. And number two, how would it be funded? Number three, what am I on, letters or D or C or something like that? I guess the idea is the software. There's software out there that is HIPAA compliant. You got to make sure that this application will meet those standards, that there's an opt-in process, and that it would coordinate with existing softwares out there. From a teaching tool, that would probably be the route that we would go with this. So, for example, if a patient gives permission for a nurse or a research facility or a clinic to use images of their wound or of their body without necessarily identifying who that person is, it is an extraordinary opportunity to teach would-be nurses more about wounds. Sean just mentioned it himself. He's not really into wounds. I mean, who would be, right? It's pretty gross. A lot of physicians aren't into it. However, it doesn't change the fact that, the integumentary system, the skin, is the largest organ of the body. Yet so much focus is not placed on the skin. As nurses are coming through, they're not really taught a lot about how to measure a wound, how to describe the wound accurately. And it gets them into trouble legally when they don't document properly what's going on with the wound. So let's say we take this tool, instead of it being a documentation tool, perhaps it's a teaching tool instead. Now you have, I don't know, maybe 500 images, all of stage 1s and 2 wounds. And you just go through stage 1, stage 2, stage 1, stage 2. By the time a nurse goes through that module inside an application, they're going to know what a stage 1 is. They're going to know what a stage 2 is, and they're going to know how to measure that wound and how to describe that wound. Then the second module might be stage 3 and stage 4 wounds, and how to discern between an arterial and a venous wound, and a burn and a macule and a papule and a wheal, and all these different types of skin conditions. If they're constantly sliding through the application and seeing different types of images and being able to identify it, now they become a stronger clinician because they're identifying things in the clinical practice. That might be the more applicable way, as opposed to HIPAA compliance, where they're taking a photograph with the device. They're taking an iPad in there and taking a picture of a patient without their consent. That might be maybe a little bit more of a practical way to use it until more acceptance in the.
I don't know, Drew. I think you could sell that pitch right there for hospital admissions, readmissions, when it comes to the never event of hospitals not being reimbursed for ulcers. So for having, having the bed wounds, those are now not reimbursable. So the admission assessment by that nurse is crucial when it comes to a patient coming into the hospital, whether or not they arrived with something like that or that they developed it while they were in their facility. So, yeah, that'd be a hell of a spin right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's also billing. As far as stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, all that type of stuff. Now we also talked about interoperability. For these type of apps, and I would presume that developers don't have access to this is what you need to do to make it into an Epic system or this specific EMR or that specific EMR. That's probably a whole different question. So
looks like someone there was interested in talking about the Apple event there.
Yeah, we are continuing that conversation, Darius, and Mike was talking a little bit about the iPad Pro and the announcements with that. We were actually talking a little bit about apps and how the general public or an app developer might be able to interface with that. So I'm sure we're going to be talking a little bit more about other announcements. But Mike, you actually posed the point in the pre-show about recording of physicians, and what are your thoughts on that? If you want to,
I'm going to switch topics. So I apologize for everybody who is here for this topic. I'm going to change the topic here as well. I found this article kind of in my Twitter feed. Actually, it was actually today, and the title of this article I'll post in the chat over here. It's called "When Is It Okay to Record Your Doctor's Orders?" And they talk about patients, which I understand. It's when you're in that visit there. A lot of stuff. It's there are people like me who talk really, really fast, and they don't get all the information. And in this article, they have people who are recording on their iPhone. Some of the discussion and some of the instructions, and the question comes up is that cool or not? As far as accuracy, as far as legally, that type of thing. And I've had patients ask me, is it okay for me to record what you're saying, because I'd like to explain it to my family. And depending on who the patient is, for me, sometimes I feel comfortable doing that. But it does bring up in the article, this article talked about people in California that, and I'm not sure about every state, but in a lot of states you have to have two-party kind of permission to do a recording, kind of as a legal type of thing. So it's interesting, as we use this technology. I've even even in the hospital, and I don't know if Sean, you've had this too. I've had people call in on their smartphone or their iPhone or something like that who are from out of town. They want to hear what I have to say, and they put them on speakerphone for that. So it's an interesting type of thing. So let me go to you, Sean. Have you had people who have asked, or have you been around people or patients or who want to record and or call in to talk about patient care?
Ironically, no, I haven't, but I have had more than over a handful of scenarios where you had mentioned that you have the out of town family member who's interested in hearing, because where I work we have multidisciplinary rounds, which is a way of coordinating care with the population of patients that I take care of. So because where I work, we have multiple areas of the hospital, multiple disciplines caring for the patient. So we do our best to try and wrangle all of that into one movement. So we usually try to have rounds at the same time every day, try and include the family same time every day. So the family starts to predict or depend on that time to hear the plan of care for their family member, which is nothing but a good thing. And family members will call from out of town, and these family members usually have decision-making ability for the family member who's being cared for, and they have on many occasions been asked to be put on speakerphone. And at first, I honestly was very, very uncomfortable with that. And I don't know why, but maybe it was just because it was different, or it had my first time experiencing it. After a handful of times that it happened, it's become commonplace because there's no loss in translation, because it used to be somebody on the phone listening to me and then that person saying what I'm saying through them to the family member. Then the family member on the phone asks a question and it goes to that person on the phone, which then goes to me. And there's usually a loss in translation in some way, shape, or form. And something as simple as the tone of voice, you can lose a lot in the message that you're trying to deliver. I don't know how I'd feel about recording the conversation where I work. I guess I would want to know what they're recording it for, quite honestly, because if I'm going to be communicating vital, protected information from the patient's perspective, if the patient is okay with that recording, then I think I'd be okay with it. But I take care of a lot of patients who can't actually answer that question, who can't say, I'm okay with you sharing that information over a phone or over a recording. So, I mean, that's a touchy subject. There's got to be definite legal ramifications to that. And like you said, apparently the state of California has already addressed that. I don't know what the laws are like that here in my state. Do you know what yours are, Mike?
I was going to look that up for the show, but I'm a bad host, so I should really know that. But especially in a hospital, I mean, there are protocols, that need to be followed. There are passwords that are set up and that type of thing. And if, just like you said, if the patient does not allow their information to be released to whomever or without that password, then that is not. That's not cool, and probably not even legal as well. Drew, what do you think about, as far as this, it is kind of patient privacy type of things that we were even talking about before with app development?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I was practicing, I just assumed at all times that I was being recorded. And whether that's just for my protection or just doing the right thing, I typically, assumed and paraphrase the questions. Always ask the question that I'm being, asked, in a public forum. Rephrase it so I completely understand what's going on. And most of the time, you can almost tell that there's some nefariousness going on. It was interesting. There was one facility which I was working in where I was doing some consulting, and it was the craziest thing. There was a host of a former host of an MTV disc jockey or something like that, video jockey, came in with a video crew and what appeared to be a bunch of folks, elderly folks that were doing a demonstration. And they were performing some type of martial arts, and it was in a rehab geriatric center type of deal. And essentially it was a staged event where the camera crew came in to videotape that, but also take videotape of the conditions of the nursing home. And it turned out that the nursing home administrator was being investigated and ultimately ended up getting sued. It was the craziest thing. This just kind of popped up into my mind. But there's some stuff like that where you actually have to be, careful. You have to be concerned about patient privacy. But by the same token, you want to make sure that, the community trusts you enough to not have to do something like that. There was a recent story that popped up where I believe a patient had turned on their iPhone or their Android device while they were having a colonoscopy. And apparently the anesthesiologist or the physician or someone, said some inappropriate things while the patient was anesthetized. And, afterwards, there was a big lawsuit that happened, and, the patient ended up mortified or whatever, claimed mental situation or whatever, and was awarded a very substantial sum of money based on what was said about the patient and to the patient while the patient was anesthetized. So there's some crazy stuff. I can see, people wanting to record, and I can see people, on the medical side not wanting to be recorded because of that. That's that sort of situation.
Yeah, it's just another way when technology and current practice kind of collide together, and as always happens, the legal system is lagging behind technology on how to deal with this. We all kind of see the good parts and the potential of using these technologies, but there's always people out there who are looking for another angle, and that's who we're kind of protecting ourselves against. That one person who could who could ruin your professional life. And it's unfortunate, that we have to think like that. But we've all known people, we've all seen people, we've all heard of cases that are negative. And unfortunately, it only takes one case to really bring it down. I probably should be a little bit more conservative on having people record. But
you said yourself that small community hospital, almost everybody on a very intimate level. So 95% of the time you understand why they're probably recording you. In the bigger hospitals where I take care of patients that are out of towners that show up, have an accident, have a problem, come in, get treated and leave, it might be a tad bit different story, but I guess that's the reality, is that you can't treat them by personal experience. They should all be treated the same. If we're going to record, then we should allow everybody to record. If we're not going to record, then nobody should be allowed to record, that kind of an ordeal. So I think Darius had made the comment about, his personal experience and what the physician did. And the truth, that's the truth, is that, and I'm doing it on a very smaller level than you, Mike, but you practice defensively because you have to the way things are these days. Everybody is always looking for the bad and not the good. sadly.
Yeah, I mean, just so yeah, Darius, if you want to join us, you can call on in, and a lot of good comments over here from Darius. So we'll see. Yeah. So yeah. So thanks for joining us there. A lot of good thoughts there. You filmed your kid getting stitches. What was up with that, man?
Well, I'm just one of those parents who films my kid doing everything. You know?
So did you then post it to Facebook and said, "Hey, here's my kid"?
Absolutely not. No, I'm not that type of person. I hate people who, especially the ones who are like embarrassing their kids online and using social media to like try to teach their kids a lesson. It's definitely not me. No, but I have about 50 terabytes of storage in this office of, just redundancy of video and photos. And I mean, I like to try to capture everything about these early formative years in my children's life, because I'm going to forget all about it, and they're going to be, out rebelling against me when they're older. And so, I gotta capture the sweetness while I can.
Well, you put on there, which it's a very intriguing comment. It's a sad state of affairs when we have to consider wearing a hidden camera to catch our peers. That's unfortunately kind of the reality and kind of where we're at. It's kind of sad, but a very true statement. Yeah,
so I'm a glass explorer. So I've got. I rarely wear them anymore, just because the one reason I don't wear them is because when I'm out and about, people look at you like, this guy must be doing something suspicious. And
they look at me like that anyway. So. Plus, it's so 2012, like, come on, it's all out of there. But yeah, we can.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up about that, Mike. If not to be far fetched, but let's just take a look. I mean, if you take a look at your Facebook wall, one thing that I notice a lot of are a lot of these police videos. You have police that are doing nefarious things and beating some people up, and then you've got the camera angle of the cop that is showing the other angle that reveals that the person that they pulled over had a gun, and they're about to grab it, and they're about nobody sees that. They just see the non-attempt, and they see somebody attempting to hurt a police officer, but because of Mike Brown or because of Trayvon or whatever people's opinions are of cops pro or against the cop, you're starting to see a lot of these things, these body cams. And in some cases, those cameras are catching a lot of nefarious things. And on the other, both, because the cop is, and on the other side of it as well. So could that also be plausible in the medical space or any other space? You've got, store owners, or you've got, some people walking down the street just doing some crazy stuff, and these stupid moron kids that are, I saw a video today where this kid was being bullied by this other kid, and they're showing the assailant beating this kid, and there's somebody just videotaping.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they videotaping this crime? It's just like, I don't know. So if that kid wasn't videotaping, you would never know. You would never hear about, this terrible act. But fortunately, some of these criminals are stupid, and they videotape their own crimes.
No,
that's good. I just went off on a
It was your turn. It was your turn. On that note, Mike, I'm going to be dropping out of here. So I'm sticking to my guns. So
all right, man.
Cheers.
Cool.
As always, it's fun. Have a good one, gentlemen.
All right, we'll see you. All right, see you.
See you tomorrow, Sean.
So yeah, we can circle back to these to the Apple announcements. You said, Darius, you used to work for Apple, or like what was that about, and what was your reaction to some of these announcements?
Yeah, so I actually had the unique privilege of working with Steve Jobs between '99 and 2005.
What?
Yes,
Wow.
it was.
Awesome. or was it awesome?
I wouldn't use awesome as the word to describe it. I would say intense, unforgettable, and a life-changing experience for sure. Yeah.
So some thoughts on the announcements?
Oh.
Anything caught your ear? Your eye?
I think it's the best keynote that Apple has had since Steve left us. And with that said, I really wish that Tim Cook were more of a visionary and less of an operations person, but unfortunately that's not the case. So he's good at carrying out a plan. I think he's sort of like reaching the end of Steve's, leaving. When he left the company, he left sort of a plan to, what to do with the company once he was leaving. I think the company is sort of at the end at that point right now. The Apple Watch, I don't think it was revolutionary enough, at least not yet. I think it still has the capacity of being transformational, but I will definitely be getting an iPad Pro. I'll definitely be getting the new Apple TV. I've been waiting for that for a long time. The Apple TV, has everything that I expected that it was going to have. The iPad Pro is exactly what I had anticipated it being. I actually had already bought a case about a month ago, like a leather case, because I knew that the iPad Pro was going to be coming out. So it's actually fitted for the new iPad Pro. The new iPhone, went on sale this morning at midnight. So of course I got one for myself and my wife, but I don't know, 4K video. It's not really. I mean, they're a little late to the game. A little late to the game with 4K video. A little late to the game with 12 megapixel camera. Given that it'll probably be a much better 12 megapixel camera than any other mobile phone on the market, of course, it's not like I'm going to be switching to Android anytime soon. So whenever they release a new one, I usually get it because I'm doing mobile interactions for the device. I'm usually working on apps and designing experiences for it. So. I would say the real groundbreaking parts that were worth mentioning were where Apple's Apple are. I mean, they're still thought leaders when it comes to kind of redefining human-computer interaction and really innovating in that space. So I think that the new tvOS was definitely there were definitely some innovations that went there. The sort of the card-oriented interface, animated cards, very cool. The gestural interface, the 3D touch for the iPhone is going to be definitely revolutionary. I think for someone like myself who's spending a lot of time designing interactions and trying to think of new ways of engaging users. So those are my initial thoughts.
What do you think of that live photo thing? It's kind of creepy. I don't know. Is it seems like?
Oh, you mean video, or was that
the photo where they take 1 second before and after or something?
Isn't that called a video?
Yeah, I mean it's just I don't. How do they store that? I mean, is it what kind of file structure would that be? I mean, it's just.
I was being facetious. I mean, they may be able to package the data into a JPEG or something, and then just unpackage it when one of the Apple clients ends up looking at it, and then just keeping it packaged when a non-Apple client ends up opening that photo, right? So the data ends up getting stored in there, but nobody else can see it unless you have an Apple device. That's probably what it's going to end up being.
Yeah.
Nothing too impressive, but I don't know. I do a lot of photography. I'm sort of a hobbyist, so I don't know. Maybe it'll change the way I do things, just because I don't have to think about the fact that there was an extra second or two of video that was captured. You know,
it seems like you're a little down on Apple as far as lack of innovation and that type of thing the last few years. Is that, would I be guessing correctly, or?
I think they need a better vision. I think they need Oh, do I have a connection issue?
No. Drew dropped out. Yeah.
I
come back in.
When I was at the company, there were 13,000 people worldwide, and we were transforming things from during Steve's era when he was back, basically just creating the entire product line from scratch. We re-gutted the company. I think he laid off half the company when he came back in '97, and brought Next with him. And now the company is over 80,000 employees worldwide.
Right.
And when you're at 13,000 and under the executive leadership of Steve Jobs, it's a lot easier to maintain that energy of a startup. When you are at 80,000 and you're being run by someone who has an operations background, it's just a matter of sustaining the company. So, I think that they've got a solid enough product line to be able to sustain them for quite some time. If they keep innovating and reinventing the iPhone to make it better and better and better and competitive with the other things that are on the market, they're always going to have a business. Mm-hmm. I mean, the iPhone buried Motorola. The iPhone buried Nokia. It buried BlackBerry. I mean, those are three major companies that were buried simply because of the iPhone.
Right.
I mean, and that was not Tim Cook's doing.
Mm-hmm.
That was all Steve's, baby and his work that he did with the rest of us. So as long as that's cultivated, right now the iPhone business unit alone makes more than the entire company Microsoft does on a quarterly basis. So just that one business unit. I think that it's a sad state of affairs, because when there are a lot of people still mourning Steve's passing that knew him and that are were in the company. A lot of people they look to his philosophy, and in a lot of ways, the nostalgia is actually bad for the company. And as much as his design philosophy is the reason for that nostalgia is necessary, I think it's suffocating them from being able to actually reinvent and create new product categories. The last time they created a new product category was probably the iPad when it was first introduced.
Right. I mean, it's people. I don't know. Some people were looking at this wearable category kind of as this next product line, which didn't seem like it's doing much. Are they running out of ideas? Is it too kind of tunnel vision? Are they going to have to bring people in from the outside to kind of shake things up to doing what you're saying as far as creating new product categories and because there's going to be only so far where they can not really innovate, but just kind of update, the iPhone line and that type of thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they're running out of ideas. I don't think they're running out of ideas. I mean, ideas are a dime a dozen. But having the ability to have the vision to know which idea to use is
right.
An idea without funding, an idea without engineers is nothing. But when you get the funding and the engineers and you're actually working toward it, I mean, even when I was there under Steve, I'd say 90% of the work that we did was thrown into a design vault somewhere and never even saw the light of day. Only 10% of our work actually even made it to the market. So I wonder if they're even doing that. I wonder if they are still, operating in a way where they're investing so much in R&D that they're willing to take a chance on something new. I hope they are, because that's what I've always loved about Apple. I've been an Apple guy since, back since the Apple IIe, when I was back in the early 80s. So, I want them to succeed. I really do.
Well, what's your been experience with glass? Do you think that is a potential technology that I mean, Apple's probably been exploring it, but is that a potential product category for Apple to kind of push forward or continue with, or is it your experience it hasn't been doing much?
You mean Google or Apple?
Yeah, or even even a glass type category for any type of company. Is that?
So you're saying, like, if Apple were to make a heads-up display?
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. I know it won't happen. They talked down glass. Most of the people I knew that were there, they didn't like the whole idea of glass, and actually they were probably largely responsible for the amount of stigma that was placed on glass, because it was actually something that Google was doing that was new, and I think that they were a little threatened by that. And that's, I think, the wearables category, I'd say, I mean, it's been around since the 80s. It's never really been a thing until the whole Internet of Things thing. I mean, I've got a couple books over there with old designs from the early days of Apple. Let me see if I can find them. So this is a collector's edition book that was sold at the company store years and years ago. No longer available, but it has it was one of the very few books that's ever been published with actual Apple intellectual property from the vault that actually never made it to the light of day. So there's some in here, and Apple approved. It was one of the very few things that Apple approved to go out. And there was an Apple Watch that they had been working on back in 1980, or in the 80s. Let's see if I can find it here. And check this out. And there's something that looks almost like an iPad.
Wow.
These are all concept designs. See if I can find it.
So maybe the next product category is in that concept book somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of truth to that. If they're willing to revisit some of the stuff that's in their vault, they'd probably be able to really do some amazing things.
Are they? Do you think they're? I guess with the size of the company now, that they're really focused on operations more so than before.
Design has lost its focus. It's as someone who was a lead designer there, it's disappointing to me because Apple has been very much a design culture that I have benefited and grown from, and I have a difficult time anymore calling Apple a company that is making really great design breakthroughs.
Wow. And it's just because of their size. They're just trying to manage all of this. I mean, because I guess just from a production standpoint, just managing the production process and the next production process takes a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of people. And the creativity part maybe is not as much. Is that fair?
Well, the design thinking part. Yeah, I don't think. I think that I think it's still there. It's not like it's just disappeared. It's just a little bit difficult a little harder to get to. When Johnny Ive took over the interface, the digital design group,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where things started falling apart, because he's a human interface person from a hardware standpoint. He's not a software guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. Really interesting. So what was your reaction to this, to this Apple Pencil? Steve doesn't like styluses and all that type of stuff.
Well, I've been using a stylus. This is my Wacom stylus here. I've been using a stylus ever since my very first Mac. I don't know. I've had a stylus for like 15, 17 years. Right here in front of me is a Wacom display. It's multi-touch. Yeah, I'll show it to you. So right here,
Wow.
this is a multi-touch display.
Wow.
It's also it also takes stylus input. It does pressure sensitivity, angle sensitivity, multi-touch. It's everything I need. I mean, it's not a revolution. It's just a revolution in that you'll be able to have it on an iPad. But I mean, Wacom has already had a portable tablet just like that for years already. And back in 2005, I bought a Fujitsu pen input display tablet that was a little thicker than the iPad. Better, obviously the iPad has better form factor, but it's nothing new.
Yeah. So you're thirsting for something new and innovative from Apple.
Yeah, I want to see them rock the show. Like, I want to see them coming out with something where they're taking something that everyone uses, like an MP3 player, and replaces all of them with something fantastic. I want to see them coming out with something where they're replacing an entire product category, and I haven't seen anybody turning in their Rolexes for an Apple Watch.
That's definitely true. Yeah. But there's more bands. They're marketing more bands. Well, Mike, thank you so much for jumping in here this evening. I think I'm going to close out this blab here, and but thanks for your thoughts, and especially those kind of that backstory on some of your Apple experience. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Okay, thanks a lot. Good night.
Okay.
All right, kids. So I'm just going to close this up here, and thanks everybody for joining me. Thanks to Drew, and thanks to Sean, and thanks to Michael for joining us. And I'm going to put this up on my website, drmikesville.com, and also you can always see it here on Blab as well. So thanks everybody for joining me, and bye bye everybody.